Good morning, afternoon, and evening, and welcome to the mayoral meeting, the opening event of Cities Against COVID-19 Global Summit 2020. I'm Nasingyan, and it is my honor to be your moderator for today's meeting. First of all, I would like to thank the representatives of some 40 cities around the world who are attending this virtual international conference. Next, we will hear about the example of Jakarta from Governor Anies Baswedan. May overall was the toughest month yet for the largest country in Southeast Asia, but Jakarta seems to have turned the corner, with the number of cases decreasing since passing a peak in mid-May. Governor, I understand that you have some visual material prepared as well. If the PDF is ready, I will turn the floor over to you now.
Thank you. First of all, allow me to express my appreciations for the invite to join this important gathering of leaders across the globe, especially my appreciation to Mayor Park, a very good friend of ours and one of our role model for leadership in the cities. And for all governors, mayors whom we admire. Allow me at this moment to share a little bit of our experience. But what I would like to share here is more of how should we look forward. I mean, we all have our experience in dealing with the pandemic, and I think it is very important for us now to look what's beyond this pandemic. In the past 6 months, many of us were struggling to save our fellow citizens, to make sure that we can get back to our life again and a new normal. But allow me in this opportunity to share some thought regarding how do we move forward. Jakarta, starting this weekend, we will start easing up our large-scale social distancing measures. But what's also important, during this period of 3 months, we experienced problems, but also we have experienced opportunities. The problems is at least two. Number one, we have health crisis. Number two, we have economic crisis. I think all of us experience that. But on the other hand, we experience a digital life breakthrough. And also we experience a greener environment. This meeting could have been done a year ago, could have been done 6 months ago, but we didn't do it. We had conventional gathering of mayors in a certain area, in certain cities at certain times. But because of this pandemic, suddenly we started to see new opportunities. Digital life breakthrough and also greener environment. For us in Jakarta, air pollution is one of our challenge. And suddenly, in the past 3 months, we experienced blue sky every day. And people started to realize, so this is what it feels when we have greener economy. This is what it feels when we have implemented sustainable economic development. So this crisis, the health crisis, the economic crisis, those are issues that we need to tackle, but also our populations is experiencing a transformations that we never expected a few months ago. So now, I think it's for all of us to start sharing new values about how we manage our cities. In the past, for example, in a developing country like ours, a megapolitan like Jakarta, we were developed through car-oriented development, minimum public transport. And then we transform ourselves from car-oriented development into transit-oriented development. We built public transport, we built stations, we built properties surrounding the station. So transit-oriented development is our approach. But now, I think we need to start to think of the next step. From car-oriented development to transit-oriented development. And then next, I think we will need to move into digital-oriented development. That may be the future we need to anticipate. And then in the past, our approach was monocentric development. We have transformed ourselves into polycentric development. I think in the future, we may be heading into microcentric development. And about services that we provided to our citizens. We move from under-provided basic services into well-provided basic services. But given this pandemic, what's needed is not only well-provided basic services, but what's needed is resilient urban services. It's a transformations that we need to undergo given the pandemic that we experience. But again, I think we need to look beyond the COVID pandemic. We need to start seeing this as an opportunity to transform how we lead a city, and also to transform the city itself to anticipate similar challenges that may come up in the future. So if I may put this in sequence, we need to, number one, make sure that this is a pandemic-proof city. And then we step forward, one more step to resilient to crisis city, a digitally advanced city, and sustainable and livable city. So the approach that we need to undertake is somewhat different. This pandemic, for some reasons, have given us an opportunity to make that transformations. And the other aspect that I'd like to share, based on our experience in Jakarta, when we started to adopt large-scale social measures, that means restrictions of economic activity, restrictions to social and cultural activities. And because of that, we suffer loss of incomes to many of our populations. For those who have no savings, this is an issue. Of course, government provide support, government provide subsidies. However, we take this opportunity to introduce large-scale social solidarity programs. So on the one hand, we have social distancing measures being adopted, but on the other hand, we adopted a social solidarity program in a large scale. And the message is that I call for the business leaders in Jakarta. I don't call them to donate to our populations, but we call them for duty. And the message goes along this line. Jakarta has given us so much. Now Jakarta needs you. And our message is, let's pay back to our city. Let's give back what has been given to you from our city. So the calling is a calling for duty to give back to our cities. And we were overwhelmed by the response. We have charity organizations that we invited them to participate, to channel people that would like to contribute, to support our fellow citizens. What happened is these charity organizations has reported to us that the number of donors have increased more than 220%, even though the amount of donations is much smaller than when it was 100% of donors. So the numbers of donors increased, but the amount of donations significantly reduced because of the economic crisis. But the message is this: social distancing doesn't mean distancing between people, distancing between socioeconomic class, but it becomes a measure of building solidarity within the city. And I think this is something that we need to strengthen after we completed our approach in the next week. We would like to make sure that the solidarity we're building in the past 2-3 months is something that we can pave stronger to the future. So those are some of our experience. If I may summarize, this has been a crisis of health and crisis of economic, but also provided us with opportunity to transform our city, to transform our leadership, and we need to look toward the futures where digital-oriented development may be the way to the future. Microcentric development is perhaps the approach in spatial planning, and we need to move from simply providing basic services to our citizens. We need to move into resilient urban services that we provide to our citizens. And the last point is social distancing measures that is adopted in the large scale need to be paired with large-scale social solidarity. If that is able to be done, I think we will be seeing a better cities, stronger cities, not only for us who have experienced this pandemic, but also to all cities across the globe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing Jakarta's experience and also for summarizing your presentation. Thank you very much, Governor.